I'd like to start with a question. In this physical world, what do you think is God's best gift to mankind? Car? Mercedes? Cadillac? Rolls Royce? House and lot? What do you think what would you consider as God's best gift to mankind? So, many of you have your own ideas, your own ₱1 million, winning the jackpot. Well, brethren, you'll eventually see the answer as we go on. Society today is attacking the sacred institution of marriage created by God. And there are many ways it is being attacked. Even way back, more than 50 years ago, marriage has been laughed at when, I would say, one of the most famous actresses at that time, Elizabeth Taylor, has been widely reputed to have divorced and married 5 times. Richard Burton was, I think, the last. That was more than 50 years ago. The late Herbert W. Armstrong mentioned that. And in recent times, the news has talked about the marriage of Miley Cyrus. I just recognize the name. I don't know her, but I recognize the name. Who broke up with her husband, Liam Hemsworth. And if you read the account, it's predictable. It's predictable what would happen. But that's just one of many broken marriages among showbiz personalities here and abroad. Just to give you 2 examples. And now we also have the SOGIE bill, SOGIE, a sexual orientation and gender identity expression, which is now being discussed in the Senate. Now, all of this are trying to converge onto something. The answer to my first question. The best gift that God has given to mankind, which is marriage. Now, obviously, for those of you who are listening, this is now the 3rd of a series on this big topic of marriage. Malaking topic ito eh. First Sabbath of August, I spoke about the biblical laws governing marriage. We went from Genesis to the New Testament. This was followed up by Mr. Campos with biblical laws governing divorce, explaining the ramifications there. But there's still one more topic that I think needs to be addressed. The biblical principles governing marriage success or successful marriages. The biblical principles. And I intend to cover that topic. What makes marriages work and what causes others not to work as good. Okay. I'll start with an illustration. About, 3 years ago, when we were in Metro Manila for the funeral of my brother-in-law, his children from the Middle East brought with them what they told us the best dessert in the whole Middle East. And you know what's that? The best dessert in the Middle East. And we read the website, very meticulous in preparing it. Mahirap. Ang daming ingredient, in the right proportion, and the right steps. And that best dessert, it claims the best dessert in the world. I don't know whether it's the world, but at least in the Middle East, it is called a baklava. Have you heard that? Baklava. I never heard that. And I said, okay, This the best? Tinikman ko, okay din. But to them, that's the best. But I said, sa Pilipinas, mas masarap pa yata yung Sans Rival. Kasi Sans Rival, the very name Sans Rival means without equal. Walang kapantay. Okay? Or yung kantang kapantay ay langit. Okay, Sans Rival. Very meticulously prepared, layer by layer, with plenty of butter in between, and nuts in between, and all of those things. So, for us Filipinos, we're not familiar with baklava, and we cannot buy that unless irregalo ng taga Middle East dalhin sa Pilipinas. But aside from that, we know about this. Now, that is meticulously prepared. It has to be the right ingredients, in the right proportion, cooked at the right time, and assembled according to specified traditional ways. This popular in Middle East is reputed to have been developed in Turkey and of course most of the Middle Eastern countries, and they said it has borrowing from Greek cuisine and other things. Now, the point I'm driving at with this best dessert in the world, so to speak, is the ingredients that are needed. Pag may kulang na ingredient, it will not come out that way. Or if it's improperly cooked, it will not come out that way. Or the proportions are wrong, it will not come out that way. It cannot be called the best dessert. So, dapat tamang-tama. Okay, so, but that's kind of far-fetched to us. We are more familiar probably with the local product share, including Sans Rival. I hope all of you could have tasted Sans Rival. Not yet. Sinong hindi pa nakatikim? Ayun, dapat bilhan yan. Special order yan. Special order. Okay. But it's good. Just want to mention that among the best desserts that I know of in this Philippines. Now, okay. Now, talking about ingredients and the kinds of ingredients that go to it to produce a certain product that is called the best, I'd like to relate that to marriage. Okay? To have a good and successful marriage, we also need to have the proper ingredients. Kasi kung may kulang dyan, ay, hindi pwede. It won't be as successful. So, dapat the ingredients should all be there. Now, going through this, I was looking at what are the ingredients that will compose a good marriage. I listed about 19 or 20. Medyo marami yan. So, I'll be driving into the topic. What are the most important ingredients for a successful marriage? My list is not necessarily the ultimate list. I know you can always add to that. Okay? You can always improve into that. In the same way that when there's a recipe, you can improve on it. Make it even better. So, we'll look at this and see the proven ingredients here. Now, I am giving this message from my personal experience of about 49 years of marriage now. 7 times 7, 49. And product of counseling with dozens of marriages through the years, over 40 years in the ministry. So I tried to distill some principles. Why some marriages are okay, some are not. And I have distilled most of these principles about 19 to 20. Okay, so let's see what are these that can produce a good marriage. Now, I'm not saying that I am the ultimate authority or that I have all the answers. I don't. So just like the Apostle Paul, I don't claim to already have attained these things. Okay? No, I also am trying. Let's open to Philippians chapter 3, verse 12. Philippians 3, verse 12. I just want to quote what the Apostle Paul was saying when he was talking about our Christian race. But I'd like to use that principle in our case. Philippians chapter 3, verse 12. So, regarding marriage, I'm the first to admit, he said, not that I have already attained. I'm not saying that our marriage is perfect, malayo pa. Okay? Or I'm already perfected, or that my marriage is already perfected. I won't claim that. Okay? I'm the first to say that. But I press on. I'm still trying hard. Although may expression tayo, trying hard. Iba man trying hard. Hindi ibig sabihin. Okay. But I press on that I may lay hold of that for which Christ Jesus or Yeshua, Messiah, has already laid hold of me. Okay. And he continues to say, brethren, I do not count myself to have apprehended or to have attained, in other words, but one thing I do, forgetting those things which are behind. Kalimutan yung nakaraan. Kalimutan na yun. Okay? And reaching forward to those things which are ahead. And instead, I press toward the goal for the prize of the upward call of God in Christ Jesus or Yeshua, Messiah. Therefore, let us, as many as are mature, have this mind. So, dapat yung isip natin like the Apostle Paul. And if in anything you think otherwise, God will reveal even this to you. Nevertheless, to the degree that we have already attained, okay, different people have already attained. Now let's reflect this or translate it to marriage. They've already attained. Some a few years, some a dozen years, some more than that. Okay, let us walk by the same rule, and let us be of the same mind. In other words, the goal is toward perfection. Since none of us had been perfect to begin with, we can always start. We can always start, pick up ourselves where we left off, where we failed. There is a saying Tagalog, kung saan ka natumba, dun ka babangon. And I think there is truth to that. Kung saan ka natumba, dun ka babangon. It says, a righteous man falls 7 times, but he rises up again. Okay? He does not say, wala na ako talaga. Wala na. 7 times na ako natumba. But Proverbs say he rises up again. That's a righteous man, and would like to be considered righteous man. So, each of us have our own problems, our weaknesses, but all of us are trying our best. Okay, so my saying that I have 49 years, or my wife and I have 49 years, I cannot really take credit for that except by the grace of God. Okay? So, what I'd like to point out is what are the ingredients that produces a stable marriage or a lasting marriage. And not like in the US, sandali lang, they change again, keep changing. It's as if they just changing clothes, but that's not what we should be. Now, we'll start with why marriages fail. We'll start with that. Bakit? Why do some marriages fail? Okay, you and I know that people have different concepts. One are looking for the Prince Charming. Wow, yun ang Prince Charming. So, magpakipot para maka-attention. And kung na-capture attention, ayun, maraming ginagawa. So, to be able to attract attention. In the world, yan, they have all the coloring on the face and all the makeup. and make the eyebrow longer or higher. At ang eyebrow kung eyelashes kung kulang, nabibili dyan, yung punang baboy. Yun yung dinadagdag talaga, totoo yan. Dinadikit yan sa mga beauty parlors. Yung sa baboy. Okay, so they do many things. It might be funny, but they do all of those to look attractive. Okay? Puta, ay, ano yung pangpaitin ng mata? Yung parang sinuntok na black eye? Shadow? O yun. So, forgive my expression, lalaki ako eh. Basta sabi ko, umitim ang mata. Parang nasuntok. But I don't mean that. I just want to describe what it looks like. But okay ba ya? Okay ba ya? Yun. So, anyway. So, these are what happens. Okay? So, they get attraction, and of course, you dress in red, it catches attention. Okay? Red is a very captivating color. And, of course, by constantly, especially in my years, I've seen those that are inclined to reading romance novels, mga babae pala. Yan ang research ko. Yan, mga romance novel, mga Tagalog, mga kwan. So, they have their own imagination of what a marriage is. Ganon. And then, so, with that concept in mind, they pursue marriage. And it's like a fairy tale marriage. Fairy tale. Did you know that there was an actual storybook marriage that happened in this world? Actual. The marriage or the wedding of the century. Kanino yun? Princess Diana. The wedding of the century, walang kapantay. Grabe, because British, the whole wealth of the British royalty was poured into that. Why I said story book marriage, I see Princess rode on a carriage pulled by white horses that is nicely decorated. Sa storybook lang nakikita yan sa nobela. And of course, Prince Charles with all the regal military uniform and all the plenty of medals. I don't know kung paano nagkaroon ng daming medal. Wala namang pinatay maski isa. So anyway, and I don't think he has been in battle, but you can buy medals and put them all. So it was very nice, and the streets were lined by thousands of people, and that wedding was viewed by millions around the world. So talagang money was spent. Money was spent. Now, with that storybook, marriage of the century, did it last? Of course, we all know. It did not last long. It did not last long. So, expense and lavishness and storybook specification is not the ingredient to a successful marriage. Hindi. Now, let us contrast this with the simplest marriage in all of history. What do you think will that be? The simplest. Okay, we have talked about the most elaborate marriage. Now let's look at the simplest marriage. When I say simplest, walang ma-entourage, walang best man, walang maid of honor, walang ring bearer, walang Bible bearer, walang kwan. Okay, that marriage was the very first marriage in this world, Adam and Eve. So, we're from the most elaborate to the simplest. Wala talaga. Dalawa lang sila. It also did not last. Okay, although no choice, but this marriage, which would have been ideal. Bakit? No money problem. Yung kay Adam and Eve, No money problem, no rent problem, no debts, walang utang, no in-law problem, no job problem, no taxes, wala talaga. And, but sadly, they produced the first murderer in history. So, if you look at it, that would have been the most ideal problem. Not only those I mentioned, but they had no health problem. Both of them were in perfect health, perfect strength. And I would say, Eve's beauty was uncomparable. I would say God created her. Walang kapantay. Of course, Adam cannot compare. But I would say when God does something, talang best. At si Adam was macho. But sadly, it also failed. So we are doing the contrast here and studying. So in other words, it's not how simple, it's not how elaborate, which therefore we have to find other parameters, what makes some marriages okay and some not so okay. Now, we started with some of the ideas of people. Some go to marriage out of convenience. Yung tinatawag na marriage of convenience. I kind of mentioned this during my first message. Okay. Marriage of convenience. In my single years, I heard from my friends, sabi nila, mag-ingat ka kay gagawin kang Salvador del Mundo dyan. Sabi, ano yan Salvador del Mundo? Savior of the world. Sabi, galing na sa iba yan. Ikaw nga ipasalo sa nangyari. In other, baka may laman na yan. Tapos ikaw ipaangkin. Okay. So be very careful. Maging Salvador del Mundo. I don't know if that's still used now. But that was used more than 50 years ago. I have heard that. At yung sa ko naman, may tinatawag nga pikot. I don't know if that's still used now. Ginapikot ang lalaki. Okay? So they dramatize things. Okay. Like the spider and the fly come into my parlor, said the spider to the fly. Hanggang during that time, na-drama nga biglang may sisipot, oy, huli, ala na. So in the US they call that shotgun marriage. So every culture have their own. Now those are some of the stories. Some become successful, some don't become successful. So we'd like to see what are the things that will promote better success in marriage. Now, because of these things, the Church of God especially, starting with the Worldwide Church of God, we began to institute what we call marriage counseling. Yung gusto mag-asawa, magpa-counsel muna. And of course, our marriage counseling in the past, okay, we talk about things. Before marriage counseling in the past, ibang mga people, the older people in the barangay talk to the couple, give some advice, and then in marriage counseling, it was very basic noon until we attended seminars and under UCG back in about 2000, and as a result of attending these seminars, I as one was given a certificate as a qualified counselor in these things, and we were given forms to accomplish to be accomplished by the couples, and from there we could determine what are the chances of a certain marriage succeeding, and also what are some of the early indications of concern that kung hindi nyo alagaan to, baka yan ang maging dahilan. Okay, so we have a checklist of over 120 things that will determine the chances, and based on the result, we said your areas of possible weakness is this or the following. So, medyo tingnan nyo yan. Okay? That is a potential problem. So, ganun yan in those counselings. And also, some of the questions that we ask are basic. One of them is, why do you want to get married? To him. Okay? And him will answer. And we ask the woman, why do you want to get married? Okay? Or the man to the woman, why do you want to get married to her? So, we listen for the answers. If the woman siya kasi magulo sa pamilya namin, puro away, kaya ayaw ko, gusto ko na maki-escape sa gulo sa bahay namin, kaya magminyo na lang ko, medyo weak yan. Okay? There's a reason you are trying to run away from a problem, but does not necessarily mean that the problem will be solved by getting married. Or, dami kong utang na dapat mabayaran, I need some help. So, different reasons. And we said that is not strong enough. Okay? Well, to be frank about, that's not strong enough. Now, apart from determining what is the purpose of getting married, kasi this foundational, we also ask the question, okay, how long have you known each other? Yan ang isang tanong. So, depending on that, and how much do you know each other? We ask that question. How much do you know each other? Have you seen her cry? Have you seen him get discouraged? Okay, so they'll mention, what was that occasion? And we also ask a very strong question. What is the worst thing that you saw in that man, or for the man? So what is the worst thing that you have seen about her? The most dislikable thing that you have seen. So tinatanong namin yan. And then we say, can you accept that? Dapat ready. Can you accept that? Yung worst na nakita mo. And we advance sometimes further, kung may worse pa dyan, kaya mo pang tanggapin? So we want to determine how strong, how committed you are in approaching the marriage. Mabigat ito kasi the answers to those questions will determine the success of that marriage. Now, we also sometimes address several scenario questions of what if, just to determine how committed you are, how dedicated you are, how prepared you are. What if? Now, obviously, we've not gone through all of this in that meticulous time. Sometimes you just shortcut. Many times we don't have the time, especially mga scattered brethren. We are able to visit once lang, magkakasal na daw 1 month from that. Wala na. So, sabi mo, okay, you are committed to each other. So, parents mo, okay ba? Okay, okay daw. So, handa ka na ba? Okay, so sige. You have my blessing. Ganun na lang. Wala na magawa eh. So, different situations, different scenario. Ganun yan. Now, in all marriages, there is what we call a rude awakening. I have been through that. Many of you have been through that. So, sabi, ito palang marriage. Ano ba to? Ganun lang? At panghabang buhay ito? It's a rude awakening. Okay? So, you will begin to think, it's a rude awakening. Okay? And, anyway, many of these things are personal, so you see your mate in the most kagigising, bungkag ang buhok, and many other things. You have been used to seeing kagandang forma ng buhok, ang make-up. Ngayon, hindi pa nakilamos. So anyway, you could imagine that. So, some of these things are rude awakening because our mind have been conditioned to a fairy tale story. Okay? Happily ever after. Without knowing the realities of life, na yan, maglalaba, maglinis ang bahay, magluluto, and you don't have to have all the makeup to do those things. So, sometimes, if the person is not prepared, it will be a very rude awakening. Okay? Now, so, what I plan to do is to list down some of the ingredients for a successful marriage. Of course, one is the preparedness of the couple. Okay, good for those who are married already, and for those contemplating marriage. Preparedness. I've listed things here, not necessarily in the order that they should be. It's kind of a random. Okay, now many of my stories will touch on my personal experiences. When my wife and I were married 49 years ago, the officiating minister forced counsel with us. Okay, but usually in counseling, labas-pasok eh. Yan na two, sige lang, okay, ganon. And then, after the marriage ceremony, sa prayer niya, something struck my head. Sabi niya, bless this couple and teach them that to have a successful marriage requires hard work. Naku, hard work. Bakit hard work? After all these years and looking at many marriages, it began to be yung hard work. Talagang may trabaho pala. It's not storybook marriage na okay, you get married and you live happily ever after. Wala nang problema, wala nang ginawa. All is roses without thorns. You sleep in a bed of roses. It never occurred to me na may hard work pala. And that's one of the things that many people fail to take note. Marriage takes hard work. And I'm putting this number one. Hard work. Kasi ang dami mong i-overcome. Sa gusto mo hindi, you have to do it. Sa ganado ka hindi, you need to do it. Hard work. Even if it's unpalatable, uncomfortable, you need to do it. You have to force yourself to do it. Okay? Kaya nanti ko, yun pala ang hard work. Yung ayaw mong gawin, dapat mong gawin. Okay? Even if you're angry, you need to control your anger, which is very hard work. Hard work yan eh. So, and gusto mo nang lumayas, hindi ka rin pwedeng lumayas. That's hard work.
That's very hard work.
Very hard work. That's why Solomon said it's better to go to the rooftop or to the wilderness than to be with nagging wife, but you still cannot do that. And that's hard work. You can run, but you cannot hide. At that's hard work. Tatalang susulungin ka. You go to a room, you go somewhere, susulungin ka at awayin ka. And it's hard work not to retaliate. So that's hard work. Okay. So, it dawned on me that talagang totoo palang hard work. Marriage is hard work. It requires hard work. And if you are not willing to put in hard work, which includes overcoming, controlling yourself, well, sira talaga. Okay, which will lead us to a few other things here. Okay, so the most important thing is be ready for hard work. Be ready for the difficult things that you don't like to do, but you still have to do it. Yan, hard work. The next that I'd like to bring out, ay sorry, hindi ko na i-email yung kuhan. The next is skills and knowledge. That's very important sa marriage. Skills and knowledge. You know, let's make this or connect this to driving. If you're a skilled driver, nadali makaiwas ng aksidente, okay? You arrive, your destination is on time. If there are problems, especially if you have a background in mechanics, you can solve along the way. So, skill is needed. Ganun din sa marriage. The more skills you have, the more knowledge you have, the more smooth that marriage will likely be. Okay? Skills and knowledge. May problemang kuryente, you can fix it. May problem faucet, you can fix it. May problema, madali yan. So, chicken feed, no problem. Huwag nang magtawag pa ng tao. Kaya natin yan. Ano? So, skills and knowledge. Now, but, not only the physical thing, but if you have skill in human relations, okay yan. Marunong kang makibagay. Okay? You have skills in human relations. Now, some people don't have enough skills in human relations, so medyo magkahirap. Like politicians, one of their skills is on human relations. That is required skill in a politician. But I'm not saying that you will be a politician, but it will be good to have some knowledge in human relations. Managing your marriage affair, if you are skillful on that, how to balance schedules, activities, conflict of schedules, planning, many other things, that will be good if you are skilled in that. Another skill is understanding human nature in the mate. Okay, for the woman to understand the man, and for the man to understand the women. The more you know, the more you can psychologize, the more you can predict possible reactions, then the more prepared you are. Okay, and understanding your husband's roles, understanding the woman's roles. If you are skilled in that, medyo smoother. Okay, so there are many things that we can say about this. And you should understand a woman's language. I have illustrated this. If the man said, I have nothing to wear, ang ibig sabihin, walang nalabhan, walang naplansya. Yun lang. Pag ang babae sinabi, I have nothing to wear, walang pang party dress. Yun ang ibig sabihin. Okay? So you have to be able to read between the lines. Now, sometimes the woman in exasperation will say, you don't love me. Okay? Magtaka yung lalaki. Bakit nasabi niya? In others, kulang sa pansin. Yun ang ibig sabihin. So you have to understand the language. The woman is asking for attention. Hindi kay talagang wala. Okay? Sabi, you don't love me. I'm sure you don't love me. Kay alis na lang ako, kay you don't love me. Kulang sa pansin. Okay? So, we have to understand various languages. So, the more skillful you are, the better you can handle these difficulties. Kasi this is a outgrowth of human nature. Human nature. Ganon. Anyway, marami pa yan. I think many of you who are married could add to this. I'm just giving a few examples. But they add to these things. Now, a third ingredient that is needed for a successful marriage is maturity. Maturity. That's why we have laws in various nations that prohibit marriage to minors. There are age limits. And below, of course, in the Philippines, I would say below 18 di pwede. And then, of course, below 25, dapat may parental consent, and then for one, may parental advice. So different things that are needed. Kasi the government and its psychologists and those who frame the law knows that there are things that will be based on maturity level. It's not, of course, it's not just the age. It's just the age. A person could be physically malaki na, but it does not mean that that person, while he is physically mature, it does not mean that that person is mentally mature. So it depends on the circumstances and the background in which that person lived. Or hindi lang yung mental maturity, but there is what we call emotional maturity. Iba din yan. Iba. Emotional maturity, yung madali magalit, madali magtampo, many other things. Cannot handle stress, madali iyak or magdabog. Those are lack of emotional maturity. And that contributes to success or failure in marriage. Now, totoo itong mga sinasabi ko. Okay, based on experience in counseling and other things. Also, social maturity is also important. Kasi may nagbisita lang, pinagdudahan na, pinagsilosan na, problema din yan. Or hindi papuntong ng lugar, kay, nako, ayaw ko magpunta ka doon, kay, wala ko'y salig. So, they think about emotional maturity, social maturity, and the most important in these things is spiritual maturity. Okay? Spiritual maturity combines mental, emotional, social, and plus the dimension of having the mind of God. And this is helpful to church members to have or consider spiritual maturity. And also, this is a necessary component when we counsel people. That's why we say, well, it's not good to be married with unbelievers, for what fellowship has light with darkness, etc. Because of the spiritual component and the spiritual compatibility. So these things are important. And lacking in any of this can begin to spell a difficulty in marriage. Number 4. Of course, you could supply the rest here. This is just a very brief summary kasi I have many points here. Number 4 is we should have the attitude of appreciation. This is seldom ever mentioned, but very important. Appreciation. I am one who did not have enough appreciation for my early marriage. Kaya ngayon, kinasal ba tayo? Parang ito sa dream. Sabi ko, look at it now. I should have been proud to have a woman follow me for the rest of my life. Did I appreciate that? Okay. Getting the best woman of your choice to live with you. I did not quite appreciate that noon. Parang I just took it for granted. And many of us probably just take it for granted. Okay. Okay, we got married. Okay, tapos ng ceremony, uwi na tayo. And I failed to really appreciate God's work in my life. I failed to really appreciate the partner that God gave into my life. Until much later, napag-isip-isip ko, sino naman ang babaeng sasama sa iyo? Magpakahirap kasama mo, and you did not even appreciate it. Okay. So, this goes also with the woman appreciating the man. Okay. Thank God that He picked out a man for you in your life. So, the point is, we fail to appreciate. We fail to thank God for what God has given and what God has done. Yan isang kulang. When we take things for granted. I'd like you to open with me to Proverbs 18:22. Proverbs 18:22. We read here, Proverbs 18:22. A man he who finds a wife finds a good thing and obtains favor from the Eternal. In other words, if you found a wife, especially God-given wife, you found a good thing. And we don't even thank God for the good thing that God has given us. And it says, he obtained favor from the Eternal. And we don't give the Eternal the thanks due to this event. So, medyo, we need to consider some of these things. Lack of appreciation. And not only from the wedding, it should be down through every day of the life, of your life. Pasalamat ka, somebody fix your food, somebody fix your clothes, and for the wife, somebody fix some problem in the house. There's food on the table. All of these things should be appreciated and be thanked for. Kasi if we don't appreciate, that means we are not thankful, and in effect, we are blaming God. God, hindi ka magandang God. You are not a good God. But we need to really appreciate. Which leads me to the next point here. Point number 5. Point number 5, which is related to giving appreciation. Okay, I think you can add to that. Appreciate everything. Say thank you for giving this, for doing that, for being kind, for being understanding, for being supportive. Many things could be appreciated. And as much as possible, the word thank you should be always there. Which brings me to number 5. Give value to your mate. Give value to your mate. Now, this really struck me right in front of my eyes. When I was in the US, I think this was about 1985, I was there for 3 weeks to attend the International Camp Directors Conference in Orr, Minnesota. So 3 weeks training yan. Every day plus practicum, going through the routine of summer camp activities, portering canoe over from island to island and then put in the water again. In the waters of Canada or in Alaska, the waters there are very clear. When we are thirsty, we can drink. Just put your cup onto the lake and drink refreshing cool water melted from the Arctic glaciers. And I said, is this really clean? They said, it's clean. And no harmful bacteria, which is true. So I drank water there. But anyway, during those 3 weeks, that was the longest I think that I was away from my wife. Napag-isipan ko, what is the most valuable thing in my life na wala sa akin at that time? I said, I had some dollars. That's no problem. I still had clothes. I have other things. Nice dwelling provided by the church. But there is one thing that struck me. I said, there is something, the most important thing in my life. It is my mate. It is my wife. So doon, it struck me na I have never given enough value. I've never given enough value. That's why at one time, while riding, I asked my wife, what would you say would be the three most important things in your life? Siyempre, sabi, well, food, shelter, clothing. Sabi ko, ako iba. Wife is number one. And then, of course, house and material things like car. Those are nice things. Eh, sabi niya, yung food, paano yun? Eh, sabi ko, if the birds have food and the Father will not neglect them, tayo pa. So, taken for granted na yan. Ganun. So, give a value to your maid. Pahalagahan. Yung bagay na yan. Okay. So, I just want to draw certain things based on my years of experience to be away and counseling and other things. Point number 6. Tenderness. Okay, this is important. Tenderness is a component of love. And it defines how you treat your mate. Tenderness. Important ito. Tenderness. Of course, I'm not saying I'm perfect. Malayo ko. Especially those who have military background. Kulang tenderness yan. My grandfather was a U.S. military. I have uncles, mga military. Puro utos yan. Command. Parade, dress, attention. Lahat yan. So, and the military people have been hardened. Nabaril yung kasama. Okay, that's part of the game. Talagang niya. Huwag mo na iyakan. Let's keep on fighting. So, hardened. Ganon. And of course, similar to military, I have been through the scouting movement most of my life, from Cub Scout, Boy Scout, Senior Scout, Explorer Scout, Rover Scout, Wood Buds, Scoutmaster, Wood Buds Commissioner, and other things. So, I have, to some extent, become kind of independent. I can live, I can take care. You throw me into the jungle, I'll survive. Without it, I can survive. Yan ang philosophy ko. To the point sometimes, my wife was, I think you don't need a wife. Yan ang sabi niya. You can survive. You can fix things, you can sleep anywhere, you can do what needs to be done. Ganyan ang Boy Scout, sabi ko eh. But, yung tenderness, medyo nawala. Where you show nga you need somebody. Kasi naging masyado independent ka. You can do it all. You know all the knot tying, you know all the things that are needed to be done. Survival, you have all the tools. As a Boy Scout, all you need is a knife and a rope. You can go to the jungle and survive. Yun lang. So, but yun ang kapalit, nawawala ang tenderness, which is important in marriage. Tenderness. Kasi when you're tender, malumanay magsalita, hindi commander. Okay? Thoughtful, always asikaso, baka wala kang dyan. Baka kailangan mong tulong dyan. Ganon. Yung thoughtfulness, tenderness and thoughtfulness. Yan sometimes nakakalimutan. Thoughtfulness. Or, natutulog kayong kita mo, wala pa yung blanket. Blanket mo naman siya. Malamig eh. Put blanket. You treat your mate like a baby. Ganon. Hindi, wala yan. Never mind. So, tenderness and thoughtfulness go together. And that is a very good ingredient in marriage. So, huwag kalimutan yan. Tenderness and thoughtfulness. I'd like to present number 7, which is sacrifice. No marriage will be successful without sacrifice. And each partner in the marriage relationship should be willing to sacrifice. and even give the utmost sacrifice. Okay? If needed. If it comes to rescuing somebody from death, be willing to do the ultimate sacrifice. We are not envisioning or thinking about a life and death situation, but more of the ordinary situations in life. So, yan, may pagkain. Like this. You give them a choice. Ito, mas masarap ito. Ito hindi gaano. Sabi mo, saan ang sa iyo? And if she said, gusto mas sige, okay lang. No problem. Di man ako mamatay eh. Ganon. So that is part of sacrifice. Pag may isa, naghati kami, medyo mas malaki-laki yung isa. Yung isa, just a millimeter shorter. Papiliin mo, gusto niyang mas mahaba. Okay. Sacrifice. Ganon yan. And you can apply that to many things. Many things. And if there is a limited space for sleeping, so yung isa more comfortable, yung isa hindi masyadong comfortable, i-offer na lang yung more comfortable. Mas gusto mo dyan, sige, ako maghanap na lang kung saan ako matulog. Ganon. So, sacrifice. That's part of marriage, actually. Which brings us to the next, which is another good ingredient in a marriage is service. Okay? Aside from sacrifice, service. Where you should find a way to be of service to your mate. Service. So, look for opportunities. For example, sa kainan, mas mabuti, bigyan mo na siya ng baso ng mainom tubig. Di ba? Kasi wala mang waiter na sabi, oy, waiter, tubig na dito. Wala eh. So, bigyan mo na. And if there is napkin, bigyan mo ng napkin. Ganon. So, that's part of service. Okay? Part of service. So, think of other ways that you could serve. Ganon. Be of service in every possible way, which will help in marriage. Now, there are many things here, so I'll just go through this quite fast. I know you can think of other ways. In fact, I would say maybe some of you are better in many of these things. I'm just sharing some of the principles. Number 9, very important in marriage is faithfulness. Important ito. It is one of the pillars of marriage, faithfulness. I'd like you to read with me Proverbs chapter 20, verse 6. Proverbs chapter 20, verse 6. Sabi dito, most men will proclaim each his goodness, but who can find a faithful man? Now, the very fact that King Solomon asked this question means na mahirap hanapin to. Okay? They talk about their goodness. I've graduated from this, I've done this, I've served, but who can find a faithful man? That's a question. And the obvious answer is hardly. Especially in our society now. Faithful man, very hard to find. I would say probably with 7.5 billion people, I would say probably 1 in 1,000. If you look at their whole life. So, if you can find a faithful man, that's good. And talking about faithful man, and if you can find a faithful man, we have a additional verse here in Proverbs 28 verse 20. Proverbs 28 verse 20. He said, a faithful man will abound with blessings, But he who hastes to be rich will not go unpunished. But the point here is a faithful man will abound with blessings. Why? Faithful in what he's doing, faithful in his work, and faithful to his partner in life. This can also be translated a faithful woman. Who can find a faithful woman? That applies equally to both sexes. And if you are faithful, you will abound in blessings. Faithful to your children, faithful to your duties in the home, faithful to your responsibilities, and faithful to your marriage covenant. Yan. Then you will be blessed. But if you are not faithful in that, you will be cursed. And the book of Proverbs has many things to say about that. Your wealth will go to some other people, some other partner, and you will be left with a piece of bread. It says that. And I've listened to some of Rafi Tulfo's yung solving problem. Ayan, mga problema doon, pinatawag, and many of these are the result of infidelity. So you have to pledge to give this every month. Other ipapakulong, ipabawsi yung violence against women and children. Ang daming problema. It started with lack of faithfulness. Lalo na yung mga OFW, yung wife nagtatrabaho, todo-todo sa abroad, padala ng pera, and the husband in the Philippines just squanders the money with other women. Pag-uwi, wala nangyari. So, yan, nagkakakaso. Which brings us to point number 10, related to this. Point number 10 is commitment to your marriage vows. Number 10, commitment to your marriage vows. In other words, it involves self-discipline. Okay, it's not when somebody is looking, but even if nobody is looking, you are still committed to your marriage vow. Commitment. And we have to realize that God is looking. Okay? God is looking. So it's important to be committed. You made a vow, you made a promise during marriage, and you did say that before the Creator who sees all. So dapat we have to have this sense of commitment. Which brings us to point number 11, which is part of that commitment. Faithfulness and commitment is trust. Trust. Kasaligan. Can you be trusted? These are important ingredients in a successful marriage. Trust. Whether malayo or whether you're out of sight, but you trust. And there are many verses which say that the husband safely trusts in her. Talking about the Proverbs 31 woman. Her husband safely trusts in her, trusts her in handling the money, trusts her in the deals that needs to be done. And so general trust is very important to a marriage. Now, I did not produce verses for all of this for lack of time and a few others, but I just want to bring these things out. You can easily research this. Number 12, very important in marriage. If this is lacking, problema pa rin ang marriage. If this is lacking. Number 12 is forgiveness. Forgiveness. Kasi kung walang forgiveness, problema talaga. Hindi matapos-tapos ang away. And your married life has not been designed to be trouble and debate and quarrel all the days of your life. So, kailangan yung forgiveness. Let's open to Matthew chapter 6, verse 15. Matthew chapter 6, verse 15. 6:15, it says here, But I'd like to start with verse 14. For if you forgive men their trespasses, your heavenly Father will also forgive you. Verse 15. But if you do not forgive men their trespasses, neither will your Father forgive your trespasses. This applies both to men and women. Just because it says men, it also applies to women. Yeah, it's still working. Okay. So that's in Matthew 6, 14 and 15. It talks about forgiveness. And I did not anymore bring out here, but Christ was asked by the disciples, how many times will I forgive my brother? 7 times? Christ said, no, not 7 times, but 70 times in a day. 77 times in a day. 70 times 7 in a day, which if you compute is 490 times. Now, in practical life, that never happens between brethren. Okay? Sometimes once lang. But in a marriage life, it can approach that. Although it's extreme, but 70 times in a day, how much more 70 times 7 in a day? It's almost impossible. Which literally, or by implication, means you keep forgiving. You keep forgiving. Because if you don't forgive to this unlimited forgiveness, alam mo mangyayari. Neither will your Father in heaven forgive you. And since none of us is perfect, and if the Father is not going to forgive us, we are the unforgiven, and we are doomed. We're doomed. If the Father will not forgive us and cleanse us. That's why this is very important. Forgiveness in a marriage. This is one of the big pillars which we cannot just ignore. And if there is no forgiveness in that marriage will really fail. Related to forgiveness, we go to number 13, which is mercy. Mercy is another important ingredient. Now, mercy is trying to understand the person and understanding their weaknesses, understanding their shortcomings and their failures. Very important. If there is no mercy in a marriage, that marriage will fail. I'd like you to open with me to Matthew chapter 5, verse 7. Matthew chapter 5, verse 7. The Messiah said, "Blessed are the merciful, for they shall obtain mercy." So if you want to be if you want to obtain mercy from God, you need to be also merciful. Very important. Okay? I cannot overemphasize it, but we need God's mercy in our life. None of us is perfect. We're humans, and we need all the mercy that God can give us. So because God is merciful to us, we need to be merciful also to our marriage partner. Which is related to number 14, understanding. Okay, an important ingredient in marriage is understanding. The man understands the wife tries to understand as much the husband. You could say, okay, I know you're kind of tired, you lack sleep the night before, you've been working hard, so okay, you take the rest that you need. Or the wife sometimes is cranky. Okay, I know, hindi ko nabili yung gusto mong damit, kaya medyo cranky. So, ang problema, wala tayong pera eh. So, please, baka next time na lang pag nagkapera tayo. So, dapat understanding. Okay? Hindi yung insisting. Hindi yung demanding. Okay? So, dapat understanding. And if each of the marriage partners are understanding, Okay. Then there will be good success in that marriage. Number 15. Overcoming the attitude of spite and revenge. Yeah, this is very important. Overcoming the attitude of spite and revenge. That is a natural tendency. Kasi ginawa mo yan, mas masama pag gawin. Kung demonyo ka, mas demonyo ako. Yan mga pangyabang nila. Okay? So, that is spite, that is revenge, and that is ungodly. I hope we can overcome that. It should be out of our mind as a Christian. And number 16, there are things that can enhance our marriage. There are things that can enhance our marriage. There have been psychological studies which says that the human touch is very important, very essential in marriage. Human touch. God has done that. Okay, if you touch your wife's shoulder habang nagalabaw, that is a sign of affection. Okay, human touch. Okay, how much more if you kiss on the cheek na hindi kailangan? That is adding to the enhancement of the marriage. Ganun yan. So, the human touch is very critical. Okay? Or kung pagod, I think your hands need some massage. I can massage that, you know, and many other things. Now, I'd like to add the element of introspection. The element of introspection. These are intimate aspects here, but have you, or have, actually, it's kind of rare, but have you had the chance to look into your mate's eye to eye? That's very meaningful, it's very touching, it's very striking, because you can see the soul of your mate. It's overpowering, I would say. If you have the chance to do it, that's a very powerful ingredient in marriage. And moving on, I would not like to escape the advice of the Apostle Paul. Two advices which also was incorporated in a marriage video that we used to show many years ago. The two elements in marriage which go hand in hand: love and respect. Love and respect. I'd like us to open to Ephesians chapter 5. Ephesians chapter 5, where the Apostle Paul talked about marriage here. In verse 25, the Apostle Paul has an instruction to husbands. Of course, you should, if you have not read it, but you can read, or you should read this whole thing about marriage relationships, starting verse 22. But in verse 25, the Apostle Paul said, "Husbands, love your wives, just as Christ loved the church and gave himself for it." In other words, the kind of love that you give to your wife is the same love that Christ has for the church. And Christ gave his life without expecting any return, recompense, or reward. It's just outgoing concern. And this is what the Apostle Paul advised husbands in the church, to love their wives. Actually, it's very hard to do this, especially kung yung wife rebelyoso, matigas ang ulo, masungit. Very hard to do this, but there is the command for us to do so. And for the wife, we move on to verse 33. Ephesians 5:33. He said, Nevertheless, let each one of you in particular so love his own wife as himself, and let the wife see that she respects her husband. The old King James says reverence. New King James said respect. So the two important things here that bind marriage together is love and respect. When a husband loves his wife the way God loves the church, eventually the wife begins to respect the husband. And when the wife respects the husband, the more the husband can love the wife. So it goes in cycle. Love and respect go hand in hand. It goes in cycle like the Korean yin and yang. Okay? So, they complement each other. And so these are some of the things that I gathered, listed, which are the good ingredients in marriage. Let me just repeat them. Okay. Number 1, hard work. Hard work. Marriage requires hard work. Doing all of this requires hard work. Okay. Number 2, skill and knowledge is essential to a good marriage. Number 3 is maturity. Okay, physically, mentally, emotionally, socially, spiritually. If the people involved in marriage are mature in those categories, there will be good success in marriage. Number 4 is appreciation. It's very important to be able to appreciate your mate. And then, which is related to number 5, give value to your mate. Pahalagahan. Okay, give value. God gave your mate to you, you better value what God has given. Don't despise, don't belittle, but give value. Number 6 is tenderness, which is one of the manifestation of love. When you are tender in your speech, in your action, in your attitude, in your manner, and thoughtfulness with tenderness, that's a very strong combination to bind a marriage. Number 7 is sacrifice. Each of the married partners should be willing to sacrifice in the same way that Christ sacrificed for the church, sacrificed for us. So sacrifice is difficult, but that is required. Sacrifice. Number 8 is service. Willing to serve and find opportunities to serve each other. Number 9 is faithfulness. Very important pillar of a good and successful marriage. Which brings us to number 10, commitment. Okay? Because that's part of your marriage covenant. And number 11 is trust. Without trust, a marriage will really fail. Mabungkag talaga without trust. 12 is forgiveness. To solve all alitan, problems, shortcomings, failures, deficiencies, let us be forgiving. Forgiveness is commanded by God if we want God to forgive us. 13 is mercy. Very important. We should be merciful so that God will give us also mercy and will obtain mercy. Number 14 is understanding. Okay? It's important to understand where each mate is coming from. Baka under pressure, effect of some illness, effect of some stress. Let us be understanding and compensate for that. 15 is to overcome the attitude of spite and revenge. Huwag ipairal yung ganti. Okay? It should be replaced with humility. Okay? Rather than spite or getting even. 16, we can enhance the marriage with the element of touch. Very important. Element of touch. A touch on the shoulder, a pat on the shoulder, a peck on the cheek. Those are all very important to enhance your marriage. And the 18, introspection of looking into the eye of your mate. Okay? Looking into her soul or his soul. And 19, and maybe we will say 20, love and respect. Husbands to love their wives, and wives to show respect for the husband. So if we practice all of these 19 or 20 aspects here, I'm sure that many marriages will be improved, will become successful, and will be able to overcome the assault of Satan. Obviously, marriages are under the attack of Satan even as the days of the end time approaches. Therefore, let us fight back with these 19 or 20 tools, depending what are the things you would like to combine. We have plenty of tools from the Word of God that we can use to build up and to strengthen our marriage, because marriage actually is the earth's equivalent for the coming kingdom of God. It's a mini kingdom and paradise on this earth. So, in conclusion, I'd like to quote from someone who said that marriage is like wine. In what way? The older it gets, the better it becomes. Yung wine na 15 years old, although sa labas masama yung sinabi 15 anyos, may double meaning yan. But meaning truly aged wine, they are expensive because they are better. Sa Tagalog, may advertisement sinasabi, habang tumatagal, lalong sumasarap. But of course, there might be double meaning there, but the point is there. And the English commercial is truly aged, truly great. So if you can make your marriage last as long as possible, then that will be great. Not just great for your life on this earth, but it will be great for the kingdom of God and for your children and your posterity. So let us apply these principles the best we can, and the more we can apply, or even you can improve on it, the better your marriage on earth will become.